Olite Castle, a place of quiet history. Stone walls, whispering secrets of Spain's royal past. But today, those walls saw something no one expected. Cameras caught it. What Princess Leonor did inside left everyone speechless. And when the truth came out, even the guards couldn't believe their eyes. Hidden in the heart of Navarre, Olite Castle has long stood as one of Spain's most magical royal landmarks, a fortress that once hosted kings, queens, and centuries of stories. But on this particular day, when Princess Leonor stepped through its grand gates, the air itself seemed to change. The cameras rolled quietly, unaware they were about to capture a royal moment that would ignite the entire nation. At first, it was just another royal visit. The Princess of Asturias, now maturing into her full role as the future Queen of Spain, was expected to tour the castle as part of her cultural and historical education. Dressed simply yet elegantly in a beige coat, her hair tied back with her signature grace, she smiled warmly at the crowd gathered outside. But what no one knew was that this visit wasn't merely symbolic. It was personal, deeply personal. Sources close to the royal family later revealed that Olite Castle held a private meaning for Leonor, something linked to a secret story her mother, Queen Letizia, had told her years before. As the cameras followed her steps through the archways, Leonor's expression shifted. She was no longer the smiling heir greeting photographers. Her gaze softened, her pace slowed, and then, in a room few ever enter, she stopped completely. This was the Hall of the Queens. A grand chamber where portraits of royal women from centuries past adorn the stone walls. Each face, painted with regal dignity, seemed to watch her in silence. Leonor stood there for several minutes, motionless, as if listening. Then, unexpectedly, she reached into her coat pocket and took out a small folded note. The cameras caught it, but no one understood what they were seeing. She unfolded it slowly, eyes glistening under the golden light streaming from the stained glass windows. She read it quietly, lips moving ever so slightly. Later, lip readers would attempt to decode what she said, but her words were soft, almost like a prayer. Witnesses reported a faint smile, then a single tear rolling down her cheek. That was the moment Spain began to ask, what did Princess Leonor read inside Olite Castle? Royal insiders later confirmed that the note was written by Queen Letizia herself. But it wasn't recent. It was an old letter, one written years earlier, before Leonor's public debut, when she was still a young girl struggling with the weight of her destiny. Letizia had left it for her daughter to open when she was ready to understand the crown not as a burden but as a promise. Inside the letter were words that would change how Leonor saw her future. It spoke of strength, of compassion, and of the invisible chain that ties every queen to her people. And there, surrounded by the echoes of past monarchs, Leonor finally understood her mother's message. But the moment didn't end there. A few minutes later, Leonor did something no one expected. She took out a small pendant, one that belonged to her grandmother, Queen Sofia. Slowly, she placed it on the marble pedestal beneath the portrait of Queen Leonor of Navarre, one of Spain's most beloved queens who had once ruled from this very castle. It was a symbolic act, a silent vow linking her to centuries of royal women before her. Cameras zoomed in. Every journalist could sense something profound unfolding. Leonor wasn't just paying homage to history. She was making a promise. When she turned to leave, she paused again. Then she whispered something to her bodyguard. Within seconds, the castle's great doors were closed to the public. For the next 20 minutes, Princess Leonor asked everyone to leave the Hall of the Queens, except for one person, Queen Letizia herself. The cameras outside caught nothing. But later, audio leaked from a boom mic left active in the corridor captured faint voices, two women, their tones soft, emotional, sometimes breaking. It was mother and daughter. "Are you ready?" Letizia's voice asked. "I am," Leonor replied. "Now I understand." When the doors opened again, both women emerged visibly moved. Letizia's eyes were red, but she was smiling. Leonor walked beside her, head high, her posture radiating quiet power. Something had shifted. In that instant, Spain saw not just a young princess. They saw a future queen. But the cameras, still rolling, caught one final detail. As they exited the hall, Leonor turned back for a brief second, and made the sign of the cross. It was subtle, but clear. To some, it was a sign of faith. To others, a symbolic blessing over her path ahead. But to those who knew her family's private traditions, it carried a deeper meaning. You see, Queen Letizia had long been guided by her mother-in-law's advice: a queen does not reign with her crown, but with her conscience. That gesture meant Leonor was choosing to reign with heart, not just heritage. The reaction online was explosive. Social media flooded with clips of the moment. "She's not just her mother's daughter," one comment read. "She's Spain's promise." Analysts, historians, even former palace staff spoke publicly, marveling at the maturity Leonor displayed that day. Some claimed the act marked the true beginning of her reign in spirit, years before the crown would ever sit on her head. But behind the headlines, a more personal story unfolded quietly. That night, after returning to Madrid, Leonor was seen standing on the palace balcony alone. The city lights reflected in her eyes. A camera from across the plaza captured her faintly smiling before drawing the curtains. Rumor has it, she was looking toward the direction of Navarre, toward Olite. Days later, a palace source revealed that Leonor had requested a private copy of her mother's letter to keep in her study. And inside that copy, she'd written 3 words in her own hand: "For my people." Weeks passed, and yet the moment inside Olite Castle continued to ripple through Spain's collective heart. Newspapers called it the silent coronation. Poets began to reference it. Even politicians, usually divided, agreed that Leonor had shown a new side of leadership, one grounded in humility. And then came the twist. Months later, while reviewing footage for a royal documentary, editors discovered something the public hadn't seen. In the background of one of the camera angles, barely visible, Leonor's pendant shimmered faintly in the light. But the pendant wasn't just any heirloom. Experts confirmed it was engraved with the initials of 2 queens, E and L. Eleanor and Letizia. 2 names, 2 legacies, 1 destiny. The discovery reignited fascination across Europe. Royal watchers from Britain to Sweden discussed how Leonor, at such a young age, was already shaping her narrative, not as a symbol but as a sovereign in waiting. And inside Olite Castle, something extraordinary happened afterward. The room where she placed the pendant has since become an unofficial pilgrimage spot for visitors. People leave flowers, letters, small tokens of hope. The palace, though silent about the meaning, allowed it to continue. Why? Because that moment reminded everyone of something Spain had almost forgotten: that a crown means nothing without purpose, and that purpose must be rediscovered by each generation anew. From that day on, every time Leonor appears in public, whether at military training, parliamentary sessions, or public ceremonies, people say she carries the same calm fire she found inside Olite. The same strength that made her ancestors unforgettable. Cameras caught what happened inside those walls. But only Leonor knows what she truly felt that day. And maybe that's what makes it so powerful. Because not everything sacred is meant to be explained. Some things are meant to be felt. In the end, Olite Castle became more than a royal visit. It became a turning point, a quiet revelation that behind every royal title is a human heart learning to lead with love. And for Spain, that heart belongs to Princess Leonor. A future queen who didn't just walk through history, she listened to it. And now, she carries it forward. Because inside Olite Castle, cameras may have caught the moment. But the world felt the message.